Imagine this. You're standing in a marble hallway deep inside the Roman palace. The walls glitter with gold, but the air is heavy, thick with the scent of wine, roses, and fear. Behind one of those doors, you hear laughter, soft at first, then wild, echoing like madness. You push the door open. Inside sits a woman draped in silk, her dark eyes glimmering like daggers. Around her, senators tremble, servants obey without blinking, and soldiers stare at the floor, afraid to meet her gaze. She lifts her cup, smiles, and says something that makes the whole room freeze, because everyone knows one word from her could end their lives. That woman is Valeria Messalina, the Empress of Rome. History remembers her not as a ruler or queen, but as something darker. A woman whose hunger for pleasure, power, and control turned the Roman Empire into her personal playground. Some called her a goddess of desire, others a monster in silk. And the terrifying part, both might be true. Before we enter her twisted world, make sure you like and subscribe to Dark Pages of History, because today we're opening the doors of Rome's darkest palace and meeting the Empress whose secrets made even her husband, Emperor Claudius, look like her puppet. Let's step inside. Long before she became a legend of lust and power, Valeria Messalina was a young noblewoman from one of Rome's most elite families. She was beautiful, yes, but beauty was common in Rome. What set her apart was her intelligence, her ability to read people, and to use their weaknesses like weapons. When she married Emperor Claudius, most thought it was a harmless match, a young woman and an older, quiet man. But behind those innocent smiles, Messalina saw something else. Opportunity. Claudius was kind, bookish, and easily influenced. In a city where power meant survival, that made him the perfect husband. She quickly learned how to pull his strings. A whisper here, a tear there, and Claudius would bend. Through charm and manipulation, she began reshaping the empire from the shadows. Enemies disappeared mysteriously. Rivals were suddenly accused of treason. And every time the Empress smiled, her hands clean, her secrets buried. But power once tasted is never enough. For Messalina, controlling the throne wasn't thrilling anymore. She wanted more than command. She wanted pleasure without limits. And as her power grew, so did her hunger. One that would soon turn Rome's nobility into her toys and her victims. Now picture this. Marble halls lit by firelight, filled with laughter, music, and sin. Rome wasn't just a city of laws and soldiers. It was also a city of secrets. Behind its temples and theaters, there was another Rome, the one no one dared to talk about. In that world, Messalina reigned supreme. She organized feasts that lasted for days, turning the imperial palace into a temple of desire. Historians wrote that her nights blurred into orgies of excess, fountains of wine, silk sheets, and whispers that could destroy reputations. One story says she challenged Rome's best-known courtesan to a contest, who could sleep with the most men in one night. The Empress won. Her prize? A crown of gold and the eternal shame of her empire. Some say it's a myth, others swear it was real, but everyone agreed. Messalina's passion was terrifying because it wasn't just lust. It was domination. She wanted control over every man, every desire, every heartbeat that entered her orbit. At night, she disguised herself in plain robes and snuck into the city's brothels. Imagine that. The Empress of Rome, walking among common prostitutes, serving men who had no idea who she was. She wasn't chasing love or thrill. She was chasing power in its rawest form. And while all this was happening, Emperor Claudius slept soundly, believing his wife was the picture of Roman virtue. The contrast was almost comical. The scholar emperor buried in scrolls, while his wife was buried in scandal. But every secret has an expiration date, and Messalina's empire of pleasure was about to collapse under its own weight. Claudius, poor, trusting Claudius, had no idea what was happening under his nose. He adored Messalina. He thought she was loyal, loving, even gentle. He gave her everything she wanted: land, jewels, titles, while she used his kindness as her cover. In public, she was graceful and modest. In private, she was Rome's most feared manipulator. Every senator who resisted her charm faced mysterious accidents. Those who pleased her rose in rank overnight. She built an empire within the empire, one controlled not by soldiers or laws, but by seduction, threats, and fear. And still, Claudius was blind. The palace was her stage, and she played her part perfectly. But the more powerful she became, the more reckless she grew. And soon she would take a step so outrageous, it would shatter even Rome's limits. Because in her hunger for control, Messalina made a choice that even her beauty couldn't save her from. This is where the story takes a turn from scandal to madness. One morning, while still married to Emperor Claudius, Messalina decided to marry another man. His name was Gaius Silius, a Roman consul, young, handsome, and dangerously ambitious. Their affair had been going on for months. But Messalina wanted more than secret meetings. She wanted a wedding, so she planned one, publicly, in the heart of Rome, with guests, wine, and music. And here's the wild part. She did it all while Claudius was away from the city. At first, everyone thought it was a bizarre theatre performance. Then, realization struck. The Empress of Rome had actually married another man. It wasn't just betrayal, it was treason. Messalina had crossed a line no one could return from. She and Silius believed they could overthrow Claudius, rule together, and crown themselves the new rulers of Rome. But Rome was a city that loved drama and feared chaos even more. When word reached Claudius, he froze. At first, he refused to believe it. Then, when the truth sank in, his heartbreak turned to rage. He sent orders. Bring her to me. Alive or dead. The walls that once echoed with laughter were now filled with soldiers marching. And for the first time, the woman who had terrified everyone was the one who trembled. Messalina fled to the gardens of Lucullus, her favorite palace retreat, the same place where she once threw her most sinful feasts. Now she hid among the statues, her face pale, her power gone. Claudius hesitated. Even after all her betrayal, some part of him still loved her. He couldn't bear to face her, or to see what she'd become. But the empire had turned against her. The Senate demanded her death. The soldiers awaited orders. One of Claudius's advisors whispered, "If she lives, you die." That was all it took. The command was given. When soldiers arrived, they found Messalina broken, weeping, begging for mercy. She asked to see Claudius one last time, to explain, to plead, maybe to manipulate him one final time. But they refused. They gave her a dagger, told her to take her own life. She tried, but fear froze her hand. So the commander stepped forward and finished the job. The woman who once ruled Rome with seduction and terror died in silence, surrounded by her own ghosts. When Claudius was told, he said only one thing: "Bring me dinner." Cold, empty, final. Rome moved on, but her name lived forever, whispered like a warning to every powerful woman who came after. Centuries later, historians still argue, was Messalina a victim of propaganda, or truly the monster the Romans described? It's easy to hate her. Her cruelty, her betrayal, her lust. But maybe she was also a mirror of Rome itself. An empire addicted to power. A city obsessed with beauty and dominance. A world where corruption was normal until it came from a woman. Messalina's story isn't just about scandal. It's about how unrestrained desire can rot even the mightiest empire from within. Rome fell, not because of enemies at its gates, but because of rot in its heart. And Messalina was its beating pulse. Her legacy became legend. Poets used her name to describe sin. Kings warned their wives not to be a Messalina. And every palace thereafter had its whispers, its shadows, its forbidden pleasures. Maybe that's the real terror, not what she did, but how familiar it still feels today. So, what do you think? Was Valeria Messalina truly evil? Or was she simply born into a world where power demanded corruption? Her story is one of beauty turned dangerous, love turned poisonous, and passion turned to madness. It reminds us that every empire, no matter how great, hides its darkest stories behind its most glittering walls. If you made it this far, you've just walked through one of the darkest pages of history. So make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that bell to keep exploring the untold secrets of our past. And if you're ready to see how power can build instead of destroy, tap the video on your screen right now about the power of compounding. Because while Messalina spent her life chasing pleasure, you can learn how patience and growth create a different kind of empire, one that doesn't crumble from within. Until next time, remember, even the brightest empires cast the darkest shadows. This is Dark Pages of History,